Okay, was that a bit dramatic? Maybe. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten and we are doing 25 books to read in 2025. Now I'm tackling this yearly TBR slightly different. For 2024, I attempted pushing myself outside my comfort zone. I really wanted to tackle books that I'd been putting off for ages. So I had like 10 classic books, I had a couple of historical fiction, I had a few other things that I had just been putting off, and it has meant that I have barely tackled any of these books. Like, it's kind of bad. I've read I've read 8 books out of the 24. There is a potential that I will read 2 more depending on how my December TBR goes and what gets chosen, which is really bad. It's not even halfway, and I think it's just because the books that I put on this list I've just lost interest in, and so I'm going to be doing it different. I don't have any non-fiction. I have 1 classic book, and then I'm not trying to do books that I've been putting off to read apart from 1, but instead I'm doing mainly series. I really want to focus on some series, so I have chosen a couple of series that I plan on finishing in 2025. So this 25 books to read in 2025, most of it is series, because I'm not doing what I did last year either, where I just put the first book in a series with then plans to finish out the whole series. I am putting in every book in the series that I plan on reading. Hopefully this works better. I'm really hoping that doing it this way I will get a lot more of the yearly TBR read. I have about 5 books that are just like random standalones, and then everything else is a series. So we're just going to get straight into it. First of all, I'm going to be talking about 2 books that aren't published yet. Well, 1 is published, but I'm waiting on the paperback edition, and that is the sequel to Empire of the Vampire, so Empire of the Damned. That comes out in paperback in February, and I'm really excited for it. Empire of the Vampire, I loved. I read for the first time this year. It's going to be on my top books of the year. I enjoyed it so much. I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I've been waiting and waiting for the second book to come out in paperback so I can continue on with the series. I'm only going to go over it briefly because I spoke about it in my Grimdark Fantasy video. I'm also going to be talking about it in my top books of the year. So it's just a dark fantasy book where vampires have taken over, and we have people called Silver Saints who are part human, part vampire, trying to protect the last of humanity. And we are seeing the story from the very last of the Silver Saints. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. I was so hesitant going into this one, but it just took me completely by surprise, and I ended up absolutely adoring every moment of this book. Really cannot wait to do that second one, and I know it's something I'm going to be reading in 2025 because I've been so excited for it. Likewise with the next book, and this is a book that's coming out in June, which is going to be Engines of War, the 3rd book to the Engines of Empire, which is the Age of Uprising series. Loved this. Oh my god, I love this so much. When this came out, I read the 1st and 2nd book really quickly. I loved it so much. Again, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I did talk about it in the Grimdark Fantasy book video, but I love this series. I think it's really underrated. I really enjoyed it, and the 3rd book is finally coming out. Now, I would actually love to do a reread of books 1 and 2. I haven't put books 1 and 2 on this TBR. The reason being is I know I'm probably not going to read it and reread them in time. And I also know when I read Engines of War, I've been so excited for it, I'm probably going to read it too fast to pay attention. I don't know if anyone else does that, where you get so excited for a book, it's like you can't pay attention because your eyes are reading it too fast for you to actually follow. Maybe I'm just alone in that, but I know the first time I read that book, I'm going to be so freaking excited. So instead, I'm just going to put the 3rd one on here, knowing I'm going to read it in June, and then probably towards the end of the year / going into 2026, I will then be rereading the 3 books. And I'm going to do it that way round because I just know what I'm like. I know I'm going to be so excited for Engines of War because the 2nd book left in some cliffhangers. Like, there is so much going on. I really want to check in on my characters, make sure some of them are okay, some of the things that happened. The emotions are high, which means that I am going to be reading this book so freaking fast that I know I'm going to have to do a reread. So it's fine for me just to put the third one on there, and then I will reread this series as and when the mood takes me, but I love it. It's kind of like steampunk fantasy. You follow various different characters. Again, I have spoken about it a lot. I love this series so much, and this one was gifted to me by Naomi, and she also gifted me the second one, so thank you so freaking much, Naomi, for introducing me to this world, to these characters. It is one of my favorite fantasy books in terms of like epic fantasy series. It is one of my favorites. I love it so much. But okay, those are the two where there's just the next book in the series that is coming out, and that will keep me up to date. Now I'm going to talk about a series. It's a fantasy series still that I plan on rereading the first one and finishing completely, and that is the Ninth Reign series. So I'm putting all three of these books on the 25 to read, rereading Ninth Reign by Jen Williams, then I'll be reading The Bitter Twins and The Poison Song. So I'll finally be finishing out this series, and I do believe me and Danny are going to be doing a buddy read potentially of some of these books. I need to reread Ninth Reign. I don't know if Danny needs to do that. I'm going to message her and find out exactly how she would like to do it, but it'd be really fun to buddy read these books, continue on with the series. It's a really unique fantasy world, I found. It's kind of like we have elves in this world, but something's happened to them. Their tree of life that gave them their kind of immortality in a way, the extension of their lives that made them so long-lived has died. Really, it's all dying off, and they have become essentially vampires, and we follow a group of characters. There's witches in this as well, which the witch part were loved it. I loved that part of it. I thought it was so well done. And then we also follow a human. So we've got an elf, a witch, and a human, and they're all kind of working together to find out what's actually going on. Towards the end of the first book, it also kind of gave me like sci-fi vibes. I was really intrigued. So I'm really looking forward to carrying on with this series and just finishing it all out. And these two were gifted to me from Denise. So thank you so much for making it possible for me to actually finish this series. And I have no more reason to drag my feet about it. I need to get on and do it. So yes, I will be rereading and then continuing on. So that's 3 more books on my 25 to read in 2025. It's a really good series. It's one that, again, I don't see loads of people talking about. It's just really good, really interesting. I really enjoyed it. I liked seeing how different characters come together. So the elf that we're following is a prince. I think he was a prince, but he's kind of gone off his own way. He tends to drink a lot. He's drunk most of the time. We then have an explorer who is Lady Vincia. She is trying to find an answer to the blight that is happening on their land. There's this blight happening, causing crops to fail and certain bits of land, and it's getting worse. It's only ever getting worse, and she's like, I want to find out what's going on. So she hires the prince, which his name is Tourmaline, to be her bodyguard essentially, and to be with her while she explores all of this. And then we come across the witch who has escaped, where witches are meant to be kept, because witches in this world are kept in this prison-like complex. Really quite dark and grim, but really well done. I was really intrigued by that. So she has escaped, and I think they have like fire magic, and it's all very seen as you can't control it sort of thing, and so we will control you. Really enjoyed it. Thought it was fascinating. Really enjoyed the group dynamic between the 3 of them and them getting together, and also just learning more about this world, the blight, the fact that elves are no longer, that their tree doesn't work anymore, and all of these different things. Like, there's so much that's interconnected. It's a really interesting world. Very much looking forward to finishing this. Another fantasy series I do plan on finishing is the Lady Trent series, which has taken me ages to do because I don't really want to finish it because I love it so much, which is silly because I know I can reread the book. But I do have the 5th one. There is a 6th, but it's kind of like a spin-off to the first 5 in the original series. Within the Sanctuary of Wings, a memoir by Lady Trent, and I love this series. I have always done a tagline of, it's basically like Jane Austen but with dragons. We are following Lady Trent. She is writing her memoirs, and each book focuses on a different aspect of her life and a different adventure that she went on to study dragons. And there are lots of different things that get involved. You get politics involved, there are different wars and things that she gets tangled up in, and you'll find that there is a base plot line like in the background that starts getting built upon, especially within like the 3rd, 4th and probably 5th book, to see where it's all going to wrap up. Really enjoy this series. It's really, really nice, and it's a lighter series to break up some of the heavier fantasy books that I'm going to be focusing on. So yeah, really, really looking forward to actually finishing this one out, and then I have a whole other series by Marie Brennan to start, but I don't think I'll be getting into that this like in 2025. We'll see. I might be able to, but I don't think so. I think I'm going to focus on these fantasy books. So those are my fantasy books I'm focusing on series wise. Then I have a sci-fi series I want to read. So I have A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. This is the second book in the Wayfarer series, but I also, on top of this one, want to purchase and read A Record of a Spaceborne Few, which is the third book in the Wayfarer series. So I really want to catch up on that. I read the first one, A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, at the beginning of this year, so it's been a while, but I still remember it. I still really enjoyed that book. I thought it was perfect. I was trying out cozy sci-fi for a week and fell in love with that genre. Really excited to continue. Now, the way this series works is it's not technically continuing on with the characters we met in the first book, like it is, but not the main characters. We're now following some of the side characters that we met and a different series of events, but I really like that. I think it's going to be really fun to get to know more of the world, more of our side characters that we got to meet. Like, I'm really intrigued. So yeah, I loved the first book. The first book was so much fun. Like it might even end up being on one of my top books for the year because I enjoyed it so much, and it did spark off a whole love for sci-fi. Like that's what this year has been as well. 2024 was me discovering that I really like sci-fi, and sci-fi was always a genre I was a bit hit and miss about, but a couple of books from there I've just really loved everything I picked up sci-fi wise this year. So really excited to continue on with this series. But in the first book we are following a crew that get together on the Wayfarer, and the Wayfarer is a tunneling ship. So basically it makes tunnels within space so that you can get from one end of the galaxy to another a lot quicker using these tunnels. This particular mission is tunneling to a small angry planet, and there's a lot of politics involved, and you get to see different areas of the galaxy, and there's lots of stuff going on. I really like it. So yeah, I want to be reading books 2 and 3. That's another thing that's kind of making it a bit easier, is I'm not just doing one book out of that series. I'm doing every book I've mentioned is going on the 25 to read list, which I think again will help me tackle it a little bit more and also make me better at actually finishing out series. Although there are 4 books in this series. I'm not sure if the 4th book is out. I'm pretty sure it is, because you can buy a bundle on Amazon of all 4 books. So, but I decided to do 2 just because of the amount of series I'm working on. Trying to be a bit realistic, but definitely 2 out of the Wayfarer series. I'm so excited to read. Okay, now we're moving on to some mystery book, because I don't know if anyone remembers me saying this. Probably you do. But back in 2023, I said I really wanted to work on Miss Marple series, and I started reading quite a few books in 2023, and then 2024 happened and I just fell off the bandwagon. I really haven't read that much Agatha Christie at all, and now I'm going to put 4 books on my 25 to read in 2025. Here I have A Pocket Full of Rye. I am focusing on the Miss Marple books. Once I finish the Miss Marple series, I will then move on to Hercule Poirot. I have read a couple of short stories, the various different Hercule Poirot, Miss Marple, Tommy and Tuppence stories that Agatha Christie has done. I've also read a couple of Christmas ones that have Hercule Poirot in, but I won't be starting fully on that side of things until then. And I do count this as a series, and I'm reading them in order that it says on the inside of these books. So it says Marple, and then I've been reading them in the order of this. I'm not sure if it's publication order, or it might be, I'm not sure, but it's a series I'm going to end up owning all of. I really enjoy them. I know I'll reread them. I have a lot of fun with these. Miss Marple I find a little bit more cozy mystery leaning compared to Hercule Poirot out of the couple that I've read but with him in it, but I love this. This is so good and so much fun. So yeah, I'm putting 4 of them on here. So we have A Pocket Full of Rye, The 450 from Paddington, I want to get and read, The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side, and A Caribbean Mystery. All 4 of those are going on to read for next year, and after that I will only have 4 left and I would have completed the Miss Marple series, which I'm really excited about. I love murder mystery series. I love Agatha Christie's writing. I'm really enjoying it, so really want to get that read. Obviously, if I can get more than 4 read, I would be so happy, but even if I only just get these 4 read next year, I will be fine with that. I mean, it'll probably be 5 because I always do an extra Christmas one, but if I can get at least these 4 Miss Marple ones read, I will be really happy. Another mystery series I want to continue on with, I have A Treacherous Curse by Denna Rayborn. This is a 3rd book in the Veronica Speedwell series. Really love it. I started off reading books 1 and 2 in quick succession with one another earlier this year, and then I just stopped because I was picking up other video projects. That meant that my Kindle reads were becoming a lot more structured because I read the first 2 on Kindle. So I decided to pick up the 3rd book physically, and I am putting the 3rd book on my TBR for next year. I would again have put more, but with everything I've got to read, I have a different cozy mystery series that I'm going to focus more on next year, but I know that I will probably get this one, maybe one more read next year, probably focus in on this series more in 2026. Am I making video plans that far in advance? Yes, because I'm insane, but yeah, I really want to at least get this one read off my shelves and continue on with this series. Like, ideally, I would love to read all of the ones that are currently out, because it's a 9-book long series. Definitely not going to happen, but I'm at least putting one on here because I love this series. So if you don't know the Veronica Speedwell series, we are following Veronica Speedwell, who is a lepidopteran butterfly scientist. Do you know how many times I have listened to somebody say that word for me and I still cannot pronounce it? It doesn't matter how many times I do it, I cannot pronounce it. I do not know what it is about that word. But she's a butterfly scientist, and we meet her in the first book when her aunts who've been looking after her have died. And this random person comes up to her going, "Your life is in danger, quick, we need to get to London." And Veronica's thinking to herself, well, I was planning to go to London anyway, so I guess you're giving me a free ride. Sure, why not? Except the person that said all this to her deposits her at this guy called Stoker's place, who is very grumpy and very annoyed about the intrusion, and then he dies. He gets murdered. And so Veronica and Stoker work together to find out who murdered this person, and Veronica's also trying to work out, well, who the hell's trying to kill me? What's going on? I don't know. It's a really fun series. I really enjoy the dynamic between Veronica and Stoker. Each book has a different mystery that they're solving. It's a lot of fun. I really, really enjoy this series. Putting the third one on here. Again, hopefully reading more, but I'm not going to put it on the year TBR. I'm just going to put the one and be happy with that. The next cozy mystery series that I want to focus on, I'm actually planning to finish out the whole series, which is why Veronica Speedwell is only getting one book, and that is the Shady Hollow series. So I have the second book, which is Cold Clay, but I do actually plan on reading all the rest. So I also want to be reading Mirror Lake, Twilight Falls, and Summer's End. All of those are going onto my TBR for 2025, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, I did have a plan for this series where I was going to read them in the season that they're set. However, it hasn't worked because the second book is in autumn, and if I wait until autumn to read it, I am never going to read these books. It's not going to work. I'm just going to try and do like maybe one per season, or we'll just see. We're just going to read it in the year. There is also little novella ones, so it's like a 2.5 or things like that. I'm just going to read those on Kindle in between these books. I'm not putting them on the 25 to read in 2025 because they're only little novellas. They're not going to take long, but I want to finish out this series. Everything that is out currently, I want to read. I don't know if Summer's End is going to be the last and final book in this series. I'm not sure, but I really enjoyed Shady Hollow. It's a cute little animal cozy mystery series. We're following Vera Vixen, who is a reporter, and she discovers that Toad, is it the toad or is it a frog? Hang on. Somebody that nobody really likes in this town. Yes. The town's toad shows up dead, somebody that nobody really likes anyway, and Vera gets involved to actually solve the murder. We have a moose that runs a coffee shop, we have a raven that runs a bookshop. Like, it's just a really cute time. Think Wind in the Willows, but make it with a murder mystery. It's fun, it's cute. I really enjoyed Shady Hollow. I think about it more than what I thought I would, to be fair. So I really want to finish out this whole series. So I have the second one, and I will get the rest to actually finish this series and read it next year. That is the plan. So those are finishing out the series vibes. We've got fantasy, sci-fi, and mystery. Those are the ones that I'm focusing on next year. So if the series prompt comes up in my TBR game, it's going to be focusing on these. And the same with like if the mystery prompt comes up or the fantasy prompt. Hopefully the idea is that I will focus in on these and get these done. We'll see if that actually works. It's me. It probably won't, but we're going to try. And then I have 2 books that I want to start a series of, which I think isn't too bad, because I know I'm going to end up starting a lot more series in 2025 because I do the cozy new releases videos. I plan to continue doing that because I've loved them so much, but a lot of the time there are cozy fantasy, cozy romance series that are just starting, so I read that, so then it's going to be starting a series. So out of the series book ones that I have on my shelves, I have 2 that I'm thinking about for next year. One is a sci-fi series, which is Leviathan Wakes, so the Expanse series, the first one being Leviathan, oh my god, Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. This was a gift to me by Naomi again, so thank you so much, Naomi. I'm really looking forward to trying out this series. Now, I'm hoping to start this series once I have completed the 9th Reign series. I feel like then I can be justified in starting a big expansive series. This is a very long sci-fi series, and so it's definitely going to be one that I take my time with, but I am looking forward to trying it. This is a more epic sci-fi, so where you have like epic fantasy, epic sci-fi. I've not read an epic sci-fi, well, apart from I guess the Locked Tomb series by Tamsin Muir could be considered that actually. So it'd be nice to sink my teeth into a big one like this and just see how I get on with it. I've heard that you kind of need to bear with it for the first book, but that's kind of normal to me. I find sometimes first book in the series, it's a build-up book. There's so much that you're putting into it that sometimes you just need that little bit of focus. I'm really intrigued to try this series and see what I think of it. So we're following Jim Holden, who is an officer on an ice miner making runs from the rings of Saturn to the mining stations of the belt. But him and his crew, they stumble upon a derelict ship and find themselves in possession of a secret they never wanted, which then gets them caught up in other things. And we also have a detective who is looking for a girl that also links back to the ship that Jim Holden found, and it's going to be a big expansive series, as the series name suggests. So I'm really looking forward to trying that one and just seeing what I think of it. And then the second series I want to start is the Atlas 6. Again, this was gifted to me by Naomi, so thank you so much, Naomi. This was gifted to me freaking ages ago, absolutely ages ago. It was kind of around the hype of the Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake when that was all kicking off, and this first came out in paperback. Naomi gifted me the paperback. I've not picked it up. I've been slightly intimidated because there has been so much hype and so many people have loved this that I'm not sure where I'm going to fit in. From what I remember about this book, it's following these group that are all parts these group of students that are part of the Atlas, but only 5 of them can get in, but there's 6 of them, and so there's going to be a lot of fights, there's a lot of backstabbing, you're going to lose people. I'm intrigued. I know loads of people love this first book, but then the series seems to go downhill from there from what I've heard. But I really need to read this one and just try it and see what I think. I think this has been on a year TBR before, been on a TBR before, definitely. Yeah, I just need to stop being intimidated, actually go out and read it and see what I think. And I really like this line at the top which says knowledge is carnage. I like that, so I'm really intrigued to see what I think about this, how I feel about the characters. I think it's going to be really good, or at least I'm hoping it's really good, but yeah, I need to just actually get on and read it. So, and I think it would be my first Olivia Blake book actually, which will be interesting. Okay, so those are all the series. Well, technically not. I do technically have one other series, but it's a classic book, and I don't think I'm going to get through all of this, but I want to at least start this book, and that is the Gorgonhurst trilogy. This is the bind-up of the trilogy. This is by Mervyn Peake. This is meant to be a really weird, unusual book. Bit twisty. I'm not sure how easy I'm going to find this one to read. It's not a book I've heard anyone talking about, but it is one that I'm really intrigued by. So I want to just see what I think of it. The plan is to read, just even if it's just the first one, the first book in this trilogy, which, let me get up the contents page. So Titus Grown. So if I can just read Titus Grown, I'll be happy. We have like little sketches that I think the author did himself, if I'm remembering correctly, and we'll just see. And hopefully I like it. The idea is to read just this little bit of it. If I decide to continue on with it in the year, amazing. But if I can just read the first book in this bind up, I'd be really happy with that. So yeah, you'll have to let me know if you've heard of this one, if you've read it or not. I just know it's meant to be really weird. It's kind of like a fairy tale land, but make it nightmarish, and weird things are happening. So Gorgonhurst itself is a vast crumbling castle to which Titus Grown is lord and heir. Titus is expected to rule this Gothic labyrinth of turrets and dungeons according to the strict age-old rituals, but things are changing in the castle. There's treachery and murder and all sorts of things going on, so I'm really intrigued and I really want to give it a try. I've been thinking about it since I picked up this book last year. I really need to read this one now. It's kind of like the same as the Atlas 6, like it's just been playing on my mind all year. So it's time to read these books and not be intimidated by them and just get them read. I think it's going to be a really good time. I have I don't know, I kind of have sort of high expectations, but then I don't, because I don't know what to expect. Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying it. Okay, then the last few books are just some random standalones to break up everything else. So we have A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Bacon by T. Kingfisher. I am shocked. I have not read this book. I have been on a whole cozy exploration this year. I have done a deep dive into cozy books. I have become obsessed with cozy books. Cozy of any genre. I'm reading it, and yet I've not read this one, and yet I say T. Kingfisher is my favourite author, and I've not read it. I don't know why. I genuinely don't know why. I need to read this book. So this is on here just as a reminder that I need to get to this one. I have quite a few T. Kingfisher books I want to get to. I love T. Kingfisher. I'm making my way through all of their books. They are an author by author for me. They're just an author that I adore. And this is a cozy fantasy book by them that I've not read, and that feels like a crime. So it's on the 25 to read in 2025. Okay, was that a bit dramatic? Maybe, but also at the same time, no, because of how much I've loved T. Kingfisher. Like, I've read quite a lot of T. Kingfisher this year. I think they are the most read author, and I didn't have Defensive Bacon as one of those. I don't know what I was doing with my life. I really don't. And then we have a few other books that I just want to make sure I get to, because these are books I tend to forget about or put off, which is all 4 of these last books. One of those is The Crow Garden by Alison Littlewood. This was gifted to me, so thank you so freaking much. And this sounds amazing. I put it in my historical fiction shelf, which is down here, which also hosts all my pumpkins until they can go back up higher on the shelves. As a result though, I tend to not really think about this one, which is a shame because I think I'm really going to like it. So hopefully putting it on this list will just remind me that it's there, and so when prompts come up that it would fit, I can read it. But this one is, we're in Crakethorn Manor and we're following Nathaniel, who is Mad Doctor. He's his new position as a Mad Doctor. The propertier is more interested in phrenology and his growing collection of skulls than his patient minds, and hands over the care of his most interesting case, Mrs. Victoria. Her husband accuses her of hysteria and says he will pay any price to see her well, but she accuses him of something far more terrible, and Nathaniel gets caught up in this story, and it's like, who do you believe? I love books like this, so I really want to make sure I read it next year, and it's a high priority for me, especially I think in this winter time would be really good, alternatively going into autumn, but I would rather read it before then. But yeah, I think it's going to be a fantastic book, and thank you so much for gifting it to me. I really appreciate it. And then I have another gift, which is Our Share of Night by Marina Enriquez, and this is a horror book that I decided to put on this TBR because before this video I filmed my December TBR, and I had a prompt on there which is a book that was gifted, and I wanted to do a book that was gifted to me last year because I knew I still had a few of those that I hadn't got around to reading, and this was on there. And this is a book I've just been scared of reading, like genuinely terrified of reading. It's just so, well, long. I'm a little bit scared to read it. So it's a horror book. I have been getting more into horror, especially as well, like this year I was exploring the horror genre a lot more. I do think I'm really gonna like it. I've heard nothing but good reviews about this author's writing in general. It's so chunky, and that's something I really want to correct going forward into 2025, is getting over my fear of bigger books, because for some reason this year I just ended up not feeling like I could tackle big chunky books anymore, which is ridiculous because some of my favourite books are huge. I just really need to kind of get over that fear, get back into reading. I think some of it was getting caught up in the fact that I do my weekly reading vlogs and thinking to myself, well, I'm probably not going to finish this in a week, being okay with it taking a bit longer and not worrying about it. So that's definitely something I'm trying to make a more conscious effort going forward. It's still something that every so often I'll be like, oh my god, I need to finish this book. I'm like, no, I can take my time with it. Which is just a me thing. I will get over that, it's not a problem, but I'm really looking forward to this one. This one is about a cult. So we've got, it literally says Gaspar. Gaspar is 6 years old when the order first comes for him. His father could find what was lost. His father knew when someone was going to die. His father had talked to him about the dead who rode in on the wind. The dead travel fast. For years they have exploited his father's ability to commune with the dead and the demonic, presiding over macabre rituals where the unwanted and the disappeared are tortured, executed, sacrificed to the darkness. Now they want a successor, and the sights are trained on Gaspar. I've heard brilliant things about this book, so I think it's going to be brilliant. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be wonderful. This is a book I really need to make sure I'm reading next year, because if I'm not, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Again, with that, because there's no reason not to read it. I know I'm going to like it. I really want to try their author's work. They've got a lot of short stories that I want to read as well, and I think it's just going to be a fantastic time, so I really want to get on and read that one. Another horror book that I want to make sure that I'm actually reading, but I want to read it in summer, is Lost in the Garden by Adam S. Leslie. Now, I did actually buy this to take away on holiday with me to the Maldives, but then my TBR game, well, it didn't play ball at all, and instead gave me a different book to take on holiday, which honestly I wish I had ignored and I'd just taken this one instead, because it wasn't the best book in the world anyway, and I think I'm going to end up unhauling it. It was the Magnolia Parks, the most recent one. I think I would have preferred reading this on holiday. I should have stuck with my instincts, but there we are. This one is a book that I picked up because of Willow. I will have her channel linked below, and she really enjoyed this one, and I love the cover, and I was like, I have to. And I was really in the mood for a summer horror, and then I never took it on holiday. So I never got read, and I don't want it to happen again where I then don't read it. So this is going on to read for next year. And this one is, we're following 3 different girls. We have Heather, Rachel and Antonia, and they are going to Almonby. Now Almonby is a place that nobody goes to. You are told frequently. It's kind of become like an old tale they would tell children to scare them, but each of them have a different reason for going, and I think zombies are involved or something like that. So yeah, we have the 3 girls setting off into the idyllic yet perilous English countryside in which nature thrives in abundance and summer lasts forever. And as they travel through the ever-shifting geography and encounter strange voices in the fizz of shortwave radio, the harder it becomes to tell friend from foe. It is creepy, dreamlike, unsettling, and unforgettable. Sounds great. It sounds absolutely great. And I want to make sure I'm reading it in summer because it's taking place in a hot summer. So it has to be done. Or, you know, if I go on holiday to a hot place, it's coming with me. We are reading it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really good. And then the final, the 25th book. I will double check my phone list to make sure, but I believe we're at the final 25th book. Is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. And yes, this is the Kickstarter book. I backed the Kickstarter and I've still not read the damn book. Like, it was ages ago. We had 4 books. I've read 1 of them. 1! I need to read this one, and I've heard really good things about this book, so I've got no excuse to be putting it off. So yeah, I mean, just look how beautiful this is. Am I still a little bit salty about the fact that the Kickstarter really wasn't anything major? I honestly think that as back in the Kickstarter we should have had at least for a little bit longer, but that's just my personal thoughts, and there was a lot of chatter around all of that. Don't get me wrong, I'm really happy with this edition. I think it is gorgeous. I love the colour illustrations. I love this soft like leather cover with the foiling and everything. Like, it is a gorgeous book. Do I know what it's about? No, not really. I know we're dealing with people that end up in each other's bodies, I think. It's like Portal, where they get caught in the wrong world and in the wrong body or something. Yeah, I've got no idea. And there's no synopsis, so I can't even tell you. Genuinely, no idea. I've heard people love it, and I want to make sure I read it because it's been a while. I know it's like a lighter fantasy. It's separate from his Cosmere that he's created, but I think it's going to be a really nice read, and I really need to make sure I actually read it. And I have been thinking about this one for a couple months now as well, so it would be good to actually follow that feeling through and read this book. But okay, let me double check the list on my phone to make sure I have indeed talked about all 25 books, because it's a lot of books. Okay, yes, I have talked about all 25 books that I'm going to be reading in 2025. Now, as I say, slightly different way of doing it, really focusing in on those series, making sure I get them done. If we think about it logically, this should be 2 books a month plus 1 month having 3 books. Is it actually going to be as nicely split as that? Probably not, but I have the most hope that I will at least get to the majority of these books. Felt the most hopeful over this yearly TBR. Previous yearly TBRs has always been about pushing myself outside my comfort zone, reading books that have been on my shelves for ages and finally getting them read, and I'm just not doing that this year. Instead, I'm actually just focusing on things I want to be reading, series I want to be finishing, books I have been meaning to read but I just keep forgetting about. So hopefully with this list we will get it done. But you have to let me know, are you planning on a year TBR, or do you think it's a little bit insane? I'm kind of leaning into the insane part, but also I love a good plan. Like, I love a good list. It's just fun. It's just fun to do. And the satisfaction of when I actually finish out a list, whew, love it. Not that I've ever finished out a yearly list, but you know, there's always hope for the first time. But let me know if you've read any of these books. Are there any series that you're focusing on reading next year? Do you want to read any of these? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. And I think if you've made it this far, then let's just put a book stack, because we spoke about 25 books. It's a lot of books, and I'm really tired and thirsty, and I think I might just go play some Animal Crossing because I'm tired now. I've done a lot of filming today. But thank you so freaking much for watching. Thank you to everyone that's gifted me books. I really appreciate it. And doing all these end of year videos and planning for next year has just got me feeling so grateful to all of you for supporting this channel. Whether you just watch, whether you comment and share and like it, genuinely, I really appreciate it. I've been able to do so many things this year because of your support. We have grown so much in this year and I am genuinely astounded. So thank you so much for your continued support. I really appreciate it. With all that being said, thank you. And if you have enjoyed this video, then please do consider giving it that thumbs up, subscribing and commenting. Those 3 things really help this channel out. My social media links, anyone I've mentioned, will be linked below for you. And I will of course catch you in the very next video.